Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Okay, now we have talked about stereo records a lot on this show and the great lengths to which companies that sold records went to sell the stereophonic capabilities of the records, especially in the 60s. However, did you know that that's actually largely untrue? There is no such thing as a true stereophonic record, and I'll explain why in a minute. So, as you can see, prominent on just about every vintage record is the word stereo, some to different extents than others. Here's an RCA Elvis release, Living Stereo. That's a pretty big deal. And we talked about how also they would go through and remarket old analog recordings so that they could be stereo with quasi-stereo effect, and how that's not as desirable. And now we've got all out and out stereo records, where this is that demonstration disc we covered where, it's really about showing off stereo technology and, phantom third channel stuff. All this to say, stereo is a big deal when it comes to records, especially vintage records, but that's actually impossible with this technology to have true stereo sound. How can that be? One more to show you real quick. So this is a modern record, and ironically, a lot of modern records, you don't see the word stereo anywhere on it. I mean, here a little bit, right? Right there. But it's not like this big deal, like it's stereophonic. Here's a brand new record, relatively, but this is the Lady Gaga record that I've got. Let's see if it says stereo anywhere on it. I kind of doubt it, actually. Yeah, it's just assumed. People are like, when you buy an MP3 song, you don't say, is it a stereo MP3? It's just assumed. But, like I said, you cannot have stereo sound on a record, true stereo sound. So what is stereo? It's a left and a right channel, and they independently have sound. On a digital file, on a CD, the left sound is completely isolated from the right sound. You can have no sound on the right, or vice versa, and it does not impede the other channel. The channels are completely separate. And I bet you guys really appreciate my fancy graphics here. Ironically, I'm an award-winning video producer, but part of the goal of this channel was to do it on the fly, so I could fit it into my busy schedule. Therefore, I don't take the time to edit these, so my apologies for the crude graphics or lack thereof. But it gets the point across. So yeah, in a digital file, you got true independent isolated stereo channels. There's only one groove on that record, from start the outside to finish on the inside. So how are you going to get independent channels? How are you going to really get stereo sound? Well, here's how it works. Let's say that this pen is the stylus. And let me get this focused over here. Okay. And my hand will play the very crude groove. Very old-fashioned records like wax cylinder records use a Hill and Dale method, where the groove is a set channel width, and it goes up and down to modulate the sound. Therefore, when the stylus is going through the groove, it goes up and down to recreate those vibrations. In a traditional record like we have now, it uses lateral movements, left and right movements, to get that vibration. So if you've seen pictures of record grooves, they're basically like, it's really hard to show up with my hand, but it's a groove of different squiggles that create a vibration when the stylus goes through it. And basically, it rides that movement back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So how are you going to get stereo sound when you've only got one, isolated, point of taking that sound measurement? So the way stereo sound works, and you can see videos that demonstrate this a lot better on YouTube than I'm doing, but the way it works is, it takes that channel. I'm going to use these fingers instead. It'll be a little easier. Instead of just riding it back and forth, it's going to ride each side of that groove, and it is going to translate one side into one channel and the other side into another channel, therefore giving you stereo. However, again, not very well demonstrated in this, when it's in touch with one side, it's never out of touch with the other completely. So it's always touching one and the other a little bit. Therefore, there's always going to be about 20% bleed over from one channel to the other in a stereo record. So you're never going to get isolated sound. If you were to be able to pan the sound left or right, you'd be able to hear it. And that's why I say a true stereophonic record does not exist. because those channels are not fully independent. They have bleed over from the other. Ironically, the left side wall of the groove is the right channel and vice versa. But that's how it works. So the stylus, instead of just going up and down for a lateral record, or for a Hill and Dale record and left and right, now goes up to the right, up to the left as it rides that groove. Therefore, if you could see the other side of it, it has, and again, I don't know the terminology, but there are basically little sensors or little pieces of metal that it touches when it goes up this way to communicate one channel, and it touches that one to communicate the other channel. But it's never able to be fully independent because it's in the same groove that other channel's at. So there's always a little bit of bleed over from the other. So anyway, that's a little bit of behind the scenes on stereo records I thought you and hope you would find interesting. So hope you enjoyed this record. That one this video record in the background is just for looks. Sorry about that. But I appreciate you guys watching. Always appreciate you being there. Please hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share with your friends. Comment below. As always, happy record hunting. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.